Hi, I'm Mikey Hart, Ex Reyes. This is SoundBite Magazine. New York, from my studio. Here it is. Anyway.
And do you record all your music in New York, or do you also record it when you travel to LA and Louisiana?
I travel a lot playing in different bands, and then also with Ex Reyes, and I just kind of set up wherever. Hotel rooms. I like using a nice studio as much as set up in the Omni or whatever. I try and search for some sort of way to be creative in any kind of moment, even if it's dismally sleep deprived on tour or super happy at the beach situation, whatever. So I try and kind of wring any inspiration out of any moment that I can, and if it doesn't, sort of the misdirected stuff I get to send for Ex Reyes. So that's the idea. So I record it all over because of that. So that's kind of the fun thing, meeting people, collaborating with them, having them play, and then taking that stuff and being somewhere completely different part of the world, taking that session open again, and being like, oh, I have this person's that moment that we had together recorded. Now I can kind of add to it with this moment. So anyway, that's the idea. So I think a lot of it is kind of a mixture of maybe a musical style that sounds happy or something, but then if I'm talking about something that resonates on a different level. So.
Videos resonate with your upbringing in a way because you recorded them during Mardi Gras. So
yeah.
Could you tell me more about that?
Well, the idea with the videos for me, a lot of this stuff is make the road by walking, because to me one of the coolest things about music is that the more you do it, the better you get at pulling it out of thin air. And so I really like that approach musically. So I thought I would add it to the visual thing. So that was sort of a similar improvisational thing. I was down at Mardi Gras and I had a longer plane ticket, so I was getting up with different friends of mine. I was what? The idea just kind of spiraled into this crazy thing. It started out being oh yeah, we'll do walking through a parade and sort of being detached from it, and then it spiraled out. And then I was oh, I want the music videos to be this representation of moving through space and moving through ideas in the same way that the music kind of is that for me, or the music I think maybe is that abstractly. Objectively it would be something that's represents space and represents transition and maybe makes light of the dark and vice versa. So I was oh, the videos will have these very strong senses of place. So the first one had the really strong sense of place, New Orleans, this is this source of my family and a lot of my musical upbringing, musical heritage. So I was oh, okay, I'll start there. To me, one of the coolest things about music is that the more you do it, the better you get at pulling it out of thin air. And so I really like that approach musically. So I thought I would add it to the visual thing. So that was sort of a similar improvisational thing. I was down at Mardi Gras and I had a longer plane ticket, so I was getting up with different friends of mine. I was what? The idea just kind of spiraled into this crazy thing. It started out being oh yeah, we'll do walking through a parade and sort of being detached from it, and then it spiraled out. And then I was oh, I want the music videos to be this representation of moving through space and moving through ideas in the same way that the music kind of is that for me, or the music I think maybe is that abstractly. Objectively it would be something that's represents space and represents transition and maybe makes light of the dark and vice versa. So I was oh, the videos will have these very strong senses of place. So the first one had the really strong sense of place, New Orleans, this is this source of my family and a lot of my musical upbringing, musical heritage. So I was oh, okay, I'll start there. And then after that, it was I did that video for Only You, which is a one shot. The idea was that it was people from all over your life, people you work with, i.e. the band, and then people dance and all this. It was supposed to incorporate all this craziness in terms of your influence, and it was supposed to be existing somewhere abstractly, devoid of a sense of place. And then the third one I felt, or we were going for, my friend Azzy, who directed it, and I were going for is a really strong sense of New York. And so that's why on the Keeping You Online video, collaborated with that guy Sonny, who's an old swing dancer who's been tap dancing and stuff in the classic Cotton Club and all these kind of classic places in New York forever. And so I want to keep developing that idea. Like the next video, I would love to do something like out of the country, because so much of the idea of the band has to do with transition of space. And where my grandma is from is kind of like, it's called New Orleans East. It's like a big junkyard, part of the city that you go across a bridge, and then you're like in this like giant junkyard called Almanaster Dump. And I was just fascinated by it. I was like, people are doing crazy stuff out there. It's fairly like lawless, but also kind of like no one's there, so whatever. And I was like, I want to go out to Almanaster Dump and like blow a car up and like dance around and be stupid. Like it would be this thing like the parade, which has this structure, and then this thing that's absolutely structureless, but it's involving the same kind of people. And then when I started floating that idea around, people were like, you can do that, but that sounds pretty like ill-informed or ill-advised. So we got a little proper with it. It was really fun though. It was really fun to kind of figure all that out and put it all together. You know, it's definitely like a family affair.
Where did you get that theme and concept? Because I read that you did get inspired for that video.
I definitely wanted to start off with something that had to do with New Orleans, because that particular song was inspired by something that had occurred to like a family member or a close family friend. So I was like, oh, I have this idea that I want to start off there, and then it kind of, like I said, kind of went outward from there. I was like, oh, I really want to show this thing about Mardi Gras in New Orleans. It's special to me because a lot of people know about Mardi Gras in New Orleans, right? But like, if you're not from there, it kind of exists this like party destination thing that you would assume you don't want to be involved with if you're from there. But what we say is, if you didn't have fun at Mardi Gras, you just did it wrong. Like, my grandma has fun at Mardi Gras. And so I had this idea, like, okay, we'll show it. I want to show like my end of things, and then it started to take on like a different resonance of like, well, this is kind of interesting because New Orleans is a city that really values its cultural weirdos. Like, it really stakes its claim on the fact that it's made up of a bunch of weirdos. But whenever it's not celebration time, and I think this happens not just in New Orleans, I was just using New Orleans Mardi Gras as a representation. When it's not party time, all of a sudden those weirdos get marginalized again. Sort of valuing the artistic output and the cultures of marginalized people, but then sort of putting them aside when it comes time to legislate or create some sort of cultural hierarchy. I don't know. Like, everything I do is like totally kind of a joke. I was always talking about this idea of like, you want to make a song that you're crying while you're dancing or something. Yeah. So I'm like, definitely, yo. Like, I definitely want something that, like, you went through the whole night at the club and it's the end, and you're like, well, I just had so much fun. It's like something like that moment, 4 a.m. It's like, the process is very much about recording a lot of experience constantly and then kind of paging through it and synthesizing it. So I have, like, stacks of notebooks that are, like, just total fragments. That are, like, a lot of them are from flights. So, like, on a flight, I'll prefer to, like, just write fragments. And it's really commonplace stuff or really out there shit, and then you can kind of put it together, because to me, those are very honest representations of specific moments. They all have dates. They all have, like, LAX to JFK, or, like, or the other one, Miami was JFK to whatever, the Amex. What is Miami's airport? Amex? Huh? MI. Uh-huh. Hey! Miami's amazing, though. We had so much fun. Even though it was brief, it was like, oh, hold on. I got my new favorite coffee mug there.
Oh, cute.
I have a shirt that says, I was in Miami, bitch. It's totally true. When I was wearing it in Miami, it was an absolute lie, but things have changed since then. Yeah, I was in Miami, bitch, but, like, it's very tight. Which I think is a Miami thing. I have to work on my pectorals, and there's only so many hours in the day. But if I think if I went back to Miami sometime soon, I'd pop in a little spray tan and do a more serious beach photo shoot. But the photos have really gotten some traction, people really seem to, I think I got a future. Instagram booty model.